here's Brody Brazil.
Hey, welcome back. This is my Sports Broadcaster Series, and Episode 3 will be discussing presenting and live performance. That's right, it's go time, everybody. But before official go time, got to refer to the Post-it notes here. Let me just remind you that this is a series. The other 2 episodes are already out here on the channel, so if you're just coming across this one, there's more where it came from. There's also going to be more down the road. 5 episodes, I think, in total. Maybe more if I can actually come up with some relevant and decent enough ideas. I'm not claiming to be the expert or authority on all things sports broadcasting here. It's just that I've been around it for a very long time. I've experienced things. I've witnessed what others have gone through, and I want to share some of this moving forward with people just looking to get into this industry or want to know more of what it's about. And oftentimes I give these pieces of advice to individuals, and I feel like I repeat a lot of the same things, not because I'm lazy, but because it's the best I can offer. I want to offer those same pieces of advice here on the channel. So, look at that effect. I tried. Let's get on with the video. Presenting and live performance. Presenting basics go like this. Being on camera, and I mean presenting like literally what I'm doing right now, it's not for everyone, but everyone may get thrown into this mix at some point. Media is not like it used to be, where you could be a writer or a radio broadcaster and you'd never have to appear on camera. Oh no, it's almost 2024, and almost everything is done in front of a camera. So let me just say, it is sometimes, and oftentimes, as easy as it looks. It's just me talking to you right now. Simple as that. Or not. A lot of times, it's harder than it looks. Your brain, words, people talking to you, distractions. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong, and if you're doing it live, you definitely only get one take. But it's not as easy as it looks. It's also not as hard as it looks, if that makes sense. It's just never the same, I'll put it that way. When you're in front of the camera, you're ultimately the one that's going to take credit for when things go well, even if it was or wasn't your doing. You're also going to take blame for things that didn't go well, even if it was or wasn't your doing. The graphic has a spelling error here. Well, in this case, I typed all of this up, but what if it was somebody else? They think, how could Brazil get that wrong? I didn't do that. But I'll also take credit, they think, for a really cool video that got edited. I also didn't edit that. Not necessarily. My point is, you're the one going to be attached personally to the product and all of its successes and failures, right or wrong. It's just the way that the typical viewer does it. Broadcasting and presenting live, or even just in a recorded session like this, I suppose it could be an adrenaline rush. You know it's coming, you prepare for it, it's kind of like sports. Then it's time to execute, and you're only as good as you can be on that day. Some days are better than others, and I know we'll get into that in just a second. Going live is difficult. And here on this platform of YouTube, look at the most popular channels and individuals. Not a lot of them, not most of them outside the sports realm, they don't go live. In fact, they almost edit every single word they have, every misstep they have on a video so that there's a bunch of these little jump cuts. It's because doing this all in one smooth, straight swing is very difficult. Most YouTubers don't go live because they don't want you to see how it looks unedited. But there's an issue here. If you're into sports broadcasting, that's almost always live. Games happen in real time. People watch them in real time. So yes, you will be broadcasting in real time. Pre-game, post-game, or the actual game telecast, usually almost always live. And let's be clear, like a team or like an athlete or like a coach, you're going to have good days. Everything falls into place. The rhythm, the synergy, the questions you ask, the things you say, how it all, from planning to execution, how it all goes is great. Oh, but you're going to have some bad days too. And you've got teammates, and sometimes it's your fault. Sometimes, let's be honest, it's their fault. Everybody's in this together. Your teammates are super valuable, but individually and team-wise, you're going to have good and bad days. It's just like that. So accept the bad days. They're going to happen, but also kind of revel in the good days and hope to have more good than bad days. Also, have the realization about this. You're going live, you're doing a live stream or live broadcast or whatever. Stop chasing perfect. I have to remind myself of this one on a pretty regular basis. I'm a perfectionist. Why not do it over again? Or why not really find a way to make sure it hits as absolutely intended every single time? That's not possible. I'm human. You're human. Stop chasing perfect. I'm not saying that you can't aim for it, but don't demand that of yourself every single time. That's an impossible standard to hold yourself to. Okay, some basic tips. Presenting, broadcasting, whether it's live or pre-recorded, go slower than slow. What do I mean by that? Your brain is going so fast as a broadcaster, trying to get all these thoughts out, trying to get 10 steps ahead of where your mouth actually is. Your brain and mouth are connected by I don't know what. But for me personally, I know it gets a little dusty and cobwebbed in there at times. And it's hard to get those thoughts from up here to actually come out and make sense. But you'll help yourself if you just slow things down for a second. And when I was coming up in broadcasting, there was barely something called a TiVo, where you could actually go back and rewind what somebody said. In fact, when I got into TV, they said there's no way for people to rewind instantly what you just said. Well, like 2 years later, then there was a TiVo. And nowadays, yeah, there's a lot of technology for people to rewind. But the point was, don't say something so fast so that other people miss it, and that was your one chance to communicate a message. Does that make sense? Make big points, go slow, make sure you communicate them effectively so that the message was delivered and it was received. And part of going slow and slower than you think, because like even when I just slowed things down right there, even if I did this video at this pace, this is a fine pace. It feels slow to me, but you understand you can always go slower than you think. Breathe and pause. You have to train yourself to just slow down. Most people, myself included, even after 20 years, I get excited about this stuff. You have to be methodical in every way. Plan out what you're going to say. Think about how you're going to say it. It doesn't need to be precise. How am I going to get into this? What's my order of thoughts or things I'm going to deliver? If I'm doing a pregame show, let's just go segment by segment. During the commercial breaks, we can regroup. In this first segment, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. I have that all methodically laid out in my brain. Here's how I'm going to transition from 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Here's how I'm going to send it to commercials. Or a live stream or whatever your agenda is. Just have a methodical approach in every single way. Think about what you're about to do before you do it. Smooth is great. If you come across and you never flub up on your words, congratulations. Like you have a real talent, one that I would love to have, but I don't have that. You aim for smooth. You aim for making sense and using all the right impactful words and having relevant thoughts and being able to put all of this together into something that translates and makes sense. But nobody wants a robot. If you're smooth to the point where you're perfect and flawless, that might actually come across as a negative for you, like you're not even real. You're not as genuine. You're more genuine if you actually make mistakes. See, even that point, I didn't really nail it like I wanted to, but it's genuine. I hopefully came across in what I was trying to project. Evaluate all of your work that you do, presenting in front of the camera, or if you did something live, go back and watch it afterwards. I guarantee over time, you're going to land on this. When you go back and look at something, if it felt really bad, like if it felt like a train wreck, well, let me start the other way. If it felt like the best thing you've ever done, it's never as good as you expected when you watch it in reverse. You know what I'm saying? You thought after you did that segment, oh, the way it all worked and the timing and what was said and the back and forth, and yeah, that was perfect. And you watch it back, you're like, okay, that was good. It wasn't the best thing ever, but it was good. It's never as good as you expected. But if there was that train wreck, if there was a problem, and you handled it diligently and you leaned on experience over time, it's never also as bad as you expected either. Your initial thought of how something went is always going to be more extreme one way or another. But I do recommend that you always go back and review the game tape. There's nothing egotistical about that. You just want to see how it looked, how it came across. You want to see how you can get better. And quite honestly, if you're reviewing game tape of what you just did, that's fine. But if you're looking back at stuff you did 5 years ago and you're cringing at it, I know it's not comfortable, but that's the only way it should be. You should look back and say, man, I'm so much better now than I was 5 years ago. Because if you're not, that's also a huge problem and a red flag. Your approach and your appearance do matter to a certain degree. Now, the standards have totally changed. You don't need to be Walter Cronkite suit and tie anymore necessarily. Broadcasting in general has got a lot more casual, but there are some basics about just how you present yourself, even if you can't even hear me right now. Even if I put myself on mute so you couldn't hear me. Even if I do that, even if I'm just looking at somebody on a screen, at a bar, wherever, just watching this, how you're presenting in the body language alone, they also mean something. They say something without you actually saying a word. So put some time, put some effort into visually how you're coming across. And I'm not here to tell you how to look, what to do, not that at all. I'm just saying put some thought into what you're about to do and know that it will translate as part of your final product. And as you watch all this, your approach and your appearance, and as you evaluate everything, yeah, it might be painful at times. You may not want to go back and watch everything at first. I would highly recommend, as a sports broadcaster in your first 5 to 10 years, honestly, go back and watch almost everything you can after the fact. Pick the things you liked and you want to repeat. Pick the things that you didn't like and you'd like to stay away from in the future. And I guarantee that's going to accelerate your development. Okay, the actual delivery. We're past the presentation here of how you look and what your plan is, how to actually get this across. Simple always works. And sometimes I try and get way too elaborate and elegant with the words, as I just did. Just keep it simple, stupid, right? That saying is made for me. It doesn't have to be complex. As long as it translates, it works. It's so easy to overthink everything you're doing. Right now, what are you thinking right now? Are you tuned into this? Or am I making sense to you? Do I need to go back and redo part of this video? Stop. It's so easy to overthink everything you're doing. The best delivery is usually strong points, strong, big points. What are people going to take away from listening to you for 5 minutes? How many possible things can they take away? Usually it's only 1, 2, or 3 things. So don't try and make 20 points in 5 minutes. Make 3 or 4 points and really be solid and clear and precise. And hopefully your viewer, your audience will take those things away and mission accomplished. It's got to be digestible at first bite. Like I said before, first bite for the audience, pretend like they don't have the option to go back and watch what you just said again. Try and have a hook to everything you say. And I'm not saying manufacture things or exaggerate them. I'm just saying, what is the hook here that's going to be so memorable for your audience that they'll bite, they'll be attached to it, and they'll want a little bit more of it. And also, I think you need to recognize the tone of what you're doing, the topic you're discussing. There's some videos here on the channel I was going to make the other day, and some of them had real life implications with players and away from the sporting environment type stuff. And if you do those types of videos, you can't necessarily come across as all this is just sports. No. There are human beings involved in these stories. There are real life ramifications. So just know the tone of what you're approaching, what you're getting into. If it's sports topics and it's innocent and it's genuine, have a blast. But if you're starting to stray away into real life subjects here, you can't necessarily take that same sports person tone to it. As I said before, this is a visual medium. I don't know how I exist in it, but just be appropriate. And whatever that means to you. Again, I'm not here to tell you your style or that you need to fit some mold. Absolutely not. You may find that breaking the mold works well for you. You may find that breaking the mold too much throws people off, right? So there are some checks and balances kind of built into all of this. But my number one thing, just be appropriate. have some thought, have some effort put into this. Your body language talks as much as you do. Take time to self-check. Like, I didn't really even do this before the video. It's just everything straight here. Is the zipper where I want it to be? The hair is decent enough. Like, just, I don't know that anybody else is going to care for your own appearance like you might. If you're lucky, you've got good teammates and they've got your back. But you don't always know that, or you might be in your home studio making a YouTube video just like this, and only one person's got your back, and it's got to be you. My point is, help yourself out with appearance. Just always have a glance. How do things look? How will they come across when this ultimately goes out? Repetition is going to give you confidence in live and presenting situations, and research is going to give you confidence. The more times you do something, the more comfortable you'll feel in it, obviously. So just know that's going to happen for you over time. But also, the more research you do going into something, as you get through delivering it, you're going to feel so much better about being knowledgeable. This is no surprise. It would be the same thing if you didn't prepare for a speech in school, and then you had to give it, versus the person who, at least went over it 4 or 5 times in the last few days. They feel pretty comfortable getting up there and saying what they're about to say. My advice for anybody, right? And this is if you want to get into the on-camera stuff, or you don't, but you know you're going to have to do it. Be interested and be curious. If you come across that way as a presenter, I think that is such a good foundation to have. You're interested in the topic that you're covering. You're curious about different conversations and subjects, and you're trying to engage the audience. I think those are two absolute fundamentals of presenting sports. Come prepared. Like I said, there is over-preparing. Like, you can absolutely waste your time and know way too much and then confuse yourself in the process. Come prepared enough so that you're ready to execute. Feel good about where you're at starting off anything that's live or any taping session. Your intent and your execution, you do have to separate them, right? Like, you meant well, and sometimes you're going to prepare well and mean well, and the execution that day is just not your day. It's hard, but it happens. Or other times you're going to feel rushed and you're like, man, I wish I had more time. I don't know how this is going to go. And then it goes great. The execution was just great. Generally, one leads to the other, but sometimes you're going to get shorted on one side or the other. Just know that intent and execution, if you can generally get a grasp of both of those things, your presentation is going to go just fine. I would also advise anybody, pretty much anybody that wants to do this stuff or has to do this stuff, seek some role models. Find people that do similar subjects or topics or programs as you want to do or you're about to do. Find role models. And it doesn't mean that you should copy them entirely. In fact, please don't. Don't plagiarize somebody's style. Don't become them. Don't become the next them. Take a bunch of different role models. Take a handful of role models. Implement all the little things you like from each of them, and then make that who you are and what you do. And obviously, learn every single time. Repetitions are valuable, whether they're on your own, in a live stream situation, or a first job situation, but every single time you go out there and do something, take something away from it. Don't just move on so quickly that you even forget what you did, how it went, and oh yeah, I forgot to even address Young Brazil in Denver, it looks like. That's a Colorado Avalanche game on the bench. Yeah, probably pregame right there based on the fact that nobody's shown up yet. Doing something live, right? And next thing you know, you're traveling. Now you're in these weird spots going live, and maybe you're unprepared. Like, live performance, it is the closest thing a broadcaster can get to actually being a competitive athlete. Like I said, it's when stuff gets real, and it's when you have to be your best, and it's when the most eyeballs are on you, for better or for worse. I hope you've appreciated this angle, this approach. I don't even know what next episode is on, but we'll see that probably next week. Until then, thumbs up down below because you made it here to the end, and don't forget, subscribe to the channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.